A genius scientist accidentally found himself locked out of his own life and was reborn in the Joseon era, traveling back hundreds of years through space and time. Fortunately, in his new life he was born as the crown prince of the Joseon dynasty, one of the most famous kingdoms in Korean history. In this new world, he disrupted the established order by using knowledge from the future to reform his country. This is the premise of Black Corporation Joseon. In the king's hall, a table filled with books and papers was placed in the center of the room. A messenger stepped forward and announced, "This is a gift, Your Majesty." One of the ministers stepped forward to inspect the items. He was stunned by what he saw. Above them, King Sejong held a large sheet of paper. He furrowed his brow deep in thought. What exactly is this map? He glanced at the documents before him and asked, "Hyang, what are all these books and maps?" Hyang immediately responded, "I made a special request to the delegation leader. These items are crucial for governance. These are state records and maps from Zheng He's grand expeditions." The Minister of Revenue spoke up. "I have also heard of Zheng He. He was a eunuch under Emperor Yongle. It is said that he led vast expeditions to explore the seas at the emperor's command. Zheng He was a highly respected eunuch of the Ming Empire, even in modern China. He explored regions now known as Southeast Asia and Africa." King Sejong realized that he had heard the name before. However, he still did not understand how these maritime records were relevant to running the nation. Hyang lifted the map in front of his father. "Look at this. This map is worth 1,000 pieces of gold." As he spoke, his father and the minister stared at him with confused expressions. Seeing their faces, Hyang's expression darkened with frustration. He continued to explain. "Do you remember the issue with buffalo horn imports?" he asked. The Minister of Revenue repeated slowly, "Buffalo horns?" He seemed to be trying to recall something. Hyang continued, "Buffalo horn is an essential material for making bows. Joseon lacks this resource, so we have to import it from the Ming dynasty. However, they only provide it when we send tribute. That is incredibly inconvenient, isn't it? Of course, the Ming dynasty isn't the only one with buffalo horns. I've heard that Viet and Siam have abundant supplies as well." The ministers listened intently. "We've never traded with them," Hyang continued. "The reason is simple. We don't know how to reach them." The ministers were taken aback. Hyang felt more confident. He spoke passionately. "If we use this map as a guide, we can reach those countries. If that happens, we can establish trade deals without wasting unnecessary resources." King Sejong stroked his chin. He looked amazed. Without realizing it, he raised his thumb, a gesture he had recently learned from Hyang. Seeing the king's odd action, a minister asked, "Your Majesty, what does that mean?" The king laughed and replied, "It means you're the best. The crown prince taught me this not long ago." Hyang, standing beside the minister, was at a loss for words. He could only offer a cold smile. Deep down, he regretted teaching the king such a strange gesture. Suddenly, King Sejong turned to Hyang. "But Crown Prince, I'm still puzzled about one thing. There's no way the Ming Emperor would hand over this information so easily. What trick did you use?" At the word trick, Hyang's face darkened. He felt uneasy. "All right," he thought. "We'll have to go back a little in time to explain this." At that time, a diplomatic mission from Joseon was visiting Emperor Yongle, the third emperor of the Ming dynasty. The emperor sat on his throne, gazing at the envoys. "You have traveled far to get here. It must have been exhausting," he said. The envoys responded in unison, "Your Majesty, your kindness is beyond measure." The emperor admired the bird cage presented as tribute. He could not help but praise it. "The tribute you bring is truly valuable. As I expected, the falcons of Joseon are elegant." He could not take his eyes off the bird inside the cage. Its feathers were magnificent, exuding a regal aura. The falcon seemed to fit the imperial atmosphere perfectly. The emperor was delighted to receive such a gift. As a gesture of goodwill, he decided to offer a gift in return. "What does Joseon desire?" he asked. One of the envoys stepped forward. "Your Majesty, we would like sulfur and copper," he answered. The emperor immediately instructed his ministers to negotiate with the envoys. He wanted to provide a reasonable amount. Then he asked again, "Is there anything else you desire?" The envoy hesitated for a moment. Then carefully he said, "Forgive me, Your Majesty, but we also hope you would grant us the records of Zheng He's voyages." The emperor raised an eyebrow. The records of his explorations? Why does Joseon want them? The emperor's expression grew serious. After a brief silence, the envoys began speaking, carefully choosing their words. Their smiles were bright, their admiration evident. They showered him with praises, hoping to secure the valuable records. "Joseon is merely a small country in a remote corner of the world," one of the envoys said. "We truly have no idea how vast this world is. But thanks to Your Majesty, our humble nation has learned that the world is filled with many countries. We are deeply grateful." Another envoy added, "We have also heard that Zheng He was sent by Your Majesty to spread the greatness of the Ming dynasty across the world." The emperor's smile widened at the flattery. The Joseon envoys continued, "Our small nation has only just realized how immense the world truly is. Yet all this time we have been isolated, unable to grasp the grandeur of the world. Therefore, we humbly request a copy of these voyage records so that we may witness the greatness of the Ming dynasty." The imperial officials nearly gagged at the endless stream of compliments. Yet the Joseon envoys did not stop. They closed with one final plea. "We sincerely hope that Your Majesty will allow us to witness your magnificence." Yang finished his story. "That's how they got it, Father?" King Sejong fell silent. He didn't know what to say. With mere words of flattery, the Ming Emperor had willingly handed over something so valuable. The envoys had truly worked hard. After a moment, King Sejong spoke. "But I'm still curious. No matter how much we praise them, why would they give away something so precious? Could they have had a hidden motive?" One of the ministers looked uneasy, as if he had just realized something. "Your Majesty, there is something strange about these records." King Sejong turned to him. "What do you mean?" The minister picked up the document from the table with a serious expression. "This isn't a copy. This is the original document." The ministers were shocked. How could the original records be here? Was this a mistake? Or was it something that could lead to trouble in the future? The minister opened the document and flipped through its pages. Suddenly, a letter slipped out and fell to the floor. He quickly picked it up. "Your Majesty, there is a letter inside." The king reached out his hand. "Give it to me." With a slight tremor, the minister handed him the letter. The king skimmed through it and shook his head. "I don't understand." Yang lifted his head. "Father, may I read it?" The king gestured for a eunuch to pass the letter to Hyang. Hyang unfolded it and read aloud. "This document has been delivered through official channels. Therefore, there is no need to question or investigate its origins." Yang fell silent. In his mind, he pictured someone from the Ming dynasty casually handing over the document while saying, "Just take it. Don't ask questions." The scene felt so vivid in his imagination. Yang looked up and met his father's gaze. "Father, it seems the Ming dynasty truly wanted us to have this." The king still looked doubtful. "What do you mean?" Yang recalled a lesson from his past life. In his mind, he could hear the faint voice of his teacher explaining in front of a blackboard. "Do you know why the Ming dynasty's emperor launched Zheng He's expeditions? To understand this, we must first examine how Emperor Yongle ascended the throne. He seized power through a coup. Because of that, he lacked a strong foundation. He needed a grand achievement to legitimize his rule. The great expeditions were one of his strategies. But why weren't these expeditions repeated in the 15th century? After all, at that time, Asia was far more advanced in exploration than Europe. The answer lies in their trade system. They weren't truly engaged in commerce. They operated on a tribute system. In this system, a nation that paid tribute would receive gifts in return. However, tribute trade with distant countries was not profitable. If their ships were damaged or lost, they had to rebuild them at great expense. After Emperor Yongle's death, all records of the expeditions were erased. The Ming dynasty did not want future rulers to repeat the same mistake. The Minister of Public Works spoke up. "Your Majesty, if they needed so much wealth to sustain those expeditions, wouldn't it be wiser for us not to follow in their footsteps?" Yang smirked slightly. "No. Because our situation is different from that of the Ming dynasty. The king was intrigued. What makes us different? Yang replied, the difference lies in our trade system. They operated on a tribute and reward system. But we can adopt a bilateral trade model. The officials exchanged glances. Everyone in the court looked puzzled. Once again, Yang was introducing a new concept. Yang smiled, preparing to continue his explanation. However, we'll have to wait for the next chapter to hear his answer. See you in the next video.